today's April 27th Public Works meeting. I specifically want to welcome my colleagues. I'm a little voice challenged. You know, when you talk for a living, sometimes your voice walks out on you. So I'm glad I have some colleagues here who can help me. So we want to start the meeting to respect everyone's time. Ms. Curran, roll call.
Councilmember Thomas, present. Councilmember Giarrusso, present. Councilmember Harris, Councilmember King, Councilmember Green,
present.
We have a quorum.
Move for adoption of the minutes of the March 20th meeting.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Moved by Councilmember Green, second by Councilmember Giarrusso. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Because we only have three, and there may be an issue in terms of being quorum challenged, if we could take up the motions first that require a vote. Let's go through that stuff, guys, if y'all don't mind, please.
Sure. First one we have is motion number 24-162. This is authorizing the President of the Council to sign amendment number 3 to the contract between the city and Ceres Environmental Services for emergency disaster street clearing and debris collection processing in Zone 1.
Requires Council President's signature.
So moved for approval.
Moved by Councilmember Green, second by Councilmember Giarrusso. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it, so ordered.
We have motion number 24-164, authorizing the President of the Council to sign the contract with Ceres Environmental Services for Zone 2.
So moved.
Moved by Councilmember Green, second by Councilmember Giarrusso. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it, so ordered.
We have motion number M24-165, again with Ceres Environmental Services. This is for Zone 3.
Moved by Councilmember Green, second by Councilmember Giarrusso. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it, so ordered.
Number 8, motion M24-173. I believe this is being referred to the Joint Committee this afternoon with Community Justice and Quality of Life.
Absolutely, thank you.
The next one, M24-174. This is authorizing the President of the Council to sign a contract between the city and SP Plus Corporation to continue to provide curbside management and enforcement for parking-related issues, including meter operations, management services through June 2025.
So moved by Councilmember Green, second by Councilmember Giarrusso. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it, so ordered.
Finally, we have motion M24-175, authorizing the President of the Council to sign a contract with Professional Accounting Management to provide curbside management and enforcement services, including parking, ticket processing, and vehicle booting services through May 15th, 2025. This also increases ticket fees to provide for a new booting pass-through fee and a 25% contingency fee on accounts placed in collections.
Moved by Councilmember Green, second by Councilmember Giarrusso.
Wait, can I just want to ask about this one. So is this,
Councilmember Giarrusso.
yeah, I just want to know from the administration, is this a supplement to ticket takers, and how is this working?
Is someone here to ask that question? This is by request.
I'll withdraw my motion for approval.
Absolutely, we'll wait.
Okay,
No, absolutely, no doubt about it.
yeah, I just want to make sure I understand the supplementation purposes of it.
I think maybe they thought the meeting started at 10:30.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Curran, if we could start with the agenda, top of the agenda.
Sure. This is, now we have the Department of Sewage and Water Board presentations regarding the smart metering program.
Guys, please come to the table and identify everyone present and start your presentation.
Ms. Curran, do we need to approve the minutes?
Yeah.
We did at the top.
Okay. Thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Thank you for the opportunity to allow us to come this morning and present on the smart meter program. This is way overdue project, as you know, and we're very excited at this very milestone place we are. We're about to launch the actual program, and we thought it would be very prudent for us to come and present to you as a city council, let you know what our plans are, obviously receive feedback from you, what you think you have any concerns with, what you might support, so we can, again, launch the first set of bills supported by the Smart Meter program as soon as maybe next week, based on the feedback that we receive from you. We have been meeting with a lot of groups and obviously presenting, seeking feedback, but obviously today's feedback is very, very critical for us to make sure that we have heard you, and hopefully folks are listening to us today and know what's coming, and again, very, very exciting place to be. We brought you two of the key project members to my left. They'll introduce themselves and tell you what they do, and then you're going to be impressed with how thoughtful and intentional we have been throughout the process to deliver the best smart meter project to the city that we all obviously take this very, very seriously. So with that, Becca Johnsy, the project manager, will lead us with the discussion. Thank you.
Any questions for Mr. Ghassan before they start the presentation? No. Start your presentation, please.
Thank you so much for having us. We're very excited to be here talking with you. As Ghassan said, my name is Becca Johnsy, and I am the program manager for the Smart Meter program. Today we want to give you some exciting updates with the program and also explain how the smart metering program fits into the overall utility objective of timely, consistent, and accurate billing. We do have over 10,000 meters installed currently throughout our city. As a reminder, these meters, where they were going to go, who got them first, that was all designed demographically blind. We wanted to make sure that they were equitably distributed across all of our customer types and across all of our council districts. We are continuing that installation schedule. We had an intentional slow start, and we're picking up pace in order to meet our required schedule, our projected schedule of 50% of installations completed by the end of this calendar year.
I have some questions that tracks this presentation. How many meters are being installed weekly or monthly?
So right now we range between 800 and 950 meters per week, but we are ramping up to anywhere between 1,400 and 1,800 per week.
And when you talk about your 50% installations by the end of the year, what's the duration? Bless you. What's the duration?
Of the entire project?
The 50%. It says on schedule for 50% of installations by the end of the year.
By the end of this calendar year, around 70,000.
So, okay. All right.
Right. So again, we're only in April. A lot of things can happen between now and then. Things like unexpected weather events. So that is our projected schedule as of now. We also wanted to make sure that we are keeping in mind something that's very important to our residents, and that is our crescent lid. So we are installing the crescent lid that you see on your screen in all of our hardscape applications. That means a sidewalk or a driveway. And we anticipate by the end of the project, 1 in 3 residents or businesses will have this crescent design in the front of their home compared to the current 1 in 5. We are continuing our communications around a specific installation, so customers will get postcards and door hangers, but we also are completing a broader communication effort as well. This includes a video of what customers can expect when we show up in their front yard. We know it's a personal experience and we want them to be comfortable. We also will have a map live in the coming few weeks of what installations have already been completed. You can see those are the ones that are in blue and which will be completed within the next 2 to 3 months. Those are the ones in yellow. So from an overview perspective, this is how we explain what a smart metering program is. You've also heard it described as automated metering infrastructure, or AMI. We as a utility call it a smart metering program. So that at the end of the day, the whole point of all of these technologies is to get automatic meter reads directly from our customers up through our network and into the software systems that use it. So we're going from a goal rate of 1 read every 2 months to 1 read every single hour. The things that we can do and change the way that we operate is amazing with this type of data. Not only can we talk to a resident specifically about how they're using water, and it can help that communication path so customers can be enabled and understand how the way that they use water translates into their bill, but we can also look more broadly than that. We can look at how our customers and our visitors use water. What do those peak hours, those peak needs look like? How can we operate more efficiently to meet the needs of our customers? We can also look at metrics such as non-revenue water, understand what's going around in our population. We can also use things like pressure profiling. You know, with this data, we can say, hey, something's maybe going on between these 2 points underground and we can react to that before it erupts out of the ground. So we can really move from a reactive state to a proactive state.
How would that help in terms of, so my voice would go out on the day when I really need it. How would that help in terms of solving disputes, right? Because one of the issues with disputes is, even with the old system, you know, someone will have these enormous bills or issues. They'll feel like they're right or be right, and it still takes a long time to resolve.
Yeah, so we are going to be getting into...
Or they'll get the same bill that was resolved before.
Yeah, I hear you. So we are going to be talking about that more in detail in the coming few slides. So if you'll give us a few minutes, we are going to be talking about that directly so we can answer that question for you. As with any data project, though, we're talking about...
Yeah, I guess I want to hone in a little bit on Councilmember Thomas's question, which is, we all want smart metering to be wildly successful and be the panacea to the problems. But let's say you have Miss Jones in the lower 9th Ward who has a bad bill right now, and she has a smart meter installed. What is going to clean up her account before we get to the smart meter to provide that credibility that the smart meter is reading accurately aren't the problems? I think that's what you're trying to get to.
And get it out.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's exactly what we're going to be talking about in this presentation. So I hope we can answer those questions if you give us a few minutes. You want it right now?
Yeah.
Okay,
I mean, look, I mean, the bottom line is these are the things that are the most important. Yep. Let's just take a step back.
Sure.
We all know how advanced metering works. I mean, like, I know you want to make the presentation, and I appreciate the fact you want to show kind of the technology. I think we're really interested in the pragmatism and the practicalities of all of this, and just like, how does it going to work for Mr. Smith, Ms. Jones, and where they are, and what can the benefit of better service they see as a result.
And we have a couple of slides specifically to answer that question.
Let's just speed up to them.
Yeah, let's see it.
Just go to my
We'll jump through.
Well, I think that's an important point. You know, usually I wait until presentations are done. When the chair committee, I was taught to wait until my colleagues get in. But this issue is such that we prepared questions in each step because it's what the public wants to know. So I'm not trying to disrespect your presentation.
Not at all. We appreciate the
All right.
question, and we expected it, and we're more than prepared.
We'll move to the investigation
Yep.
side.
Great.
Let's talk through that.
Okay, so we also share your concerns, and so that's why we're here giving this presentation today. The reality is that this exact issue that you're talking about has been a focus for us as a project and as a utility since last summer. We wanted to ensure that the whole heart of the issue and talking with our customers is that it's not just about one single bill, sometimes it is, but it's a broader perspective than that. And so we wanted to make sure that we were actually addressing what that meant for our customers. So that meter to cash, that whole process is very complex. We were hoping that it was more automated, but when we started testing that infrastructure to make sure the data got to the end users that needed it in this entire process, is that it wasn't as automated as we anticipated and still involves quite a bit of manual manipulation. And because it involves so many manual processes to actually create the bill, there's a lot of risk associated with that, and we knew we needed to change the tack and not just focus on the creation of a bill, but look more holistically. This is a reminder of how that specific bill is created, because as you so rightly pointed out, it is just a formula. And this is what that formula looks like graphically. It includes your ready-to-serve fees. We collect sanitation charges for the city, and also includes your monthly use of the cost that varies based on how you consume water. But again, we want it to look holistically. We can't just look at one bill. We have to look at the customer as a whole, what their experience has been in the near future, and also more broadly. And so to do that, we did still stand up a separate workforce, which is our billing strike team, to look very specifically at the current status, immediate next steps that need to be taken, not just for our smart meter customers, but for our entire population, and also the design and testing of our future end state. And I'm going to turn it over to Susanna Kirby, who's our controller and also the lead of our billing strike team.
Hi, so yeah, hopefully I can take these next few minutes to answer your questions, but definitely stop me if I'm not answering what you're looking for and talk through our process. So I'm Susanna Kirby. I'm the controller for the Sewage and Water Board and also the lead for the Smart Meter Billing Strike Team. So thank you for having us. When we started looking at how we can look at accounts from a holistic perspective with these smart meters, we wanted to find ways to be proactive, work with our customers, and make this a clean experience. So we did that by using people, processes, and technology. And if we can go ahead and move on. I think we can all agree that we know that our current software has limitations. It has a cumbersome user interface, lots of screens that have to navigate through. So what are we doing now to help that? We have some new tools in place that Becca can talk to a little bit later that can help us talk to the customer about their water usage, understand it, and also help us address billing disputes in a more timely fashion.
I want to go back to the strike team.
Sure.
Is the strike team being pulled from different departments within the agency because you have a staffing shortage?
Yes.
So how do you create a strike team when you don't have enough employees? And I think our partners in Jefferson Parish just signed a contract with a staffing agency to begin to staff up their stuff. So how do you create a strike team when you're so short in staffing throughout the agency already?
Right, and that's a great question. And we feel like this was such an important matter, and we did want to pull from all the areas of the Sewage and Water Board, again, to make this a holistic approach, not just one thing. So we've pulled expertise from each area within the Sewage and Water Board to look at the overall customer experience. There are currently just a few others, again, because of staffing, and we're looking to design and test the process more than anything, so that at the end of the day, we hand a clean process back over to customer service to implement as a whole.
We also brought people from the outside, as in outside resources, to augment some of the needs. We didn't have all who we needed from the existing staff, so it's a combination of both.
Can you talk about what you did in terms of bringing someone from the outside? You got a private firm that brought in employees who have, well, not employees because they're not employees, but they have expertise in certain areas, accounting and the like, right?
Correct.
I think the public wants to kind of hear that. You know, it's just one of those things where it's an unfortunate fact of life that you almost have to expect that there's going to be a direct question of what are you doing from the outside that's going to help you? So you've engaged a firm, or at least more than one firm, from the outside to assist. And I think that's what Councilman Thomas's question might have been rooted in. We all know of the shortages throughout the city in terms of government, of employees, but it's not that you're sitting on your hands not doing something. You've gone to agencies which have an ability to employ in a way that we don't, right?
Yes, thank you for that. Yes, we have Fuse Executive Fellows who have years of experience in revenue recovery, energy efficiency. We've brought them on, and we've also worked with our temp agencies across the city to get very specific qualified candidates to help us. So yes, you are correct. Thank you.
Sure.
So we are underway with a needs assessment and RFP to look at a cloud-based CIS system that should hopefully be in place in the next few years too. That will help us with some of those limitations that we currently have. The next thing we did, and this gets directly to the disputes too, but we identified several key processes that needed immediate improvement and designed for when smart meters get in place. So what can we fix now? What will be in place when smart meters get here? So we broke them into categories of billing, customer experience, metering. We did an entire process mapping of the current process, what the new process would be. And on the next slide, you can see one of the main ones we focused on was bill disputes and investigations. So I know that's a really small box up there, but the current process, you can see all the twists and turns. We recognize that it takes several departments to resolve a dispute. It can take a long time for resolution. And so we are actively working on clearing out our current investigations, which sits at around currently 2,400, and narrowing down the process. So one of the first things we wanted to do as well was identify criteria that needed to be looked at for overall account health. So we want the customer to have a clean experience. What may be happening with the customer's account that could prevent that, and how can we be proactive in helping get them to that clean experience. We looked at if it was delinquent, exempt if it had an open investigation, and again, if it does have a smart meter, has it integrated into our system properly so everything works smoothly when we do start billing actual reads. We plan to do this for all 140,000 accounts on a rolling forward basis, so hopefully we can reach as many customers prior to them getting a smart meter and helping them have good accounts before they get their smart meter. However, I would like to say, regardless of if a customer is delinquent or has an open investigation, that will not prevent them from getting a smart meter. They will still get a smart meter. So what do we need to make this happen? We do need additional resources. We are actively working on that. We've had a Series 4 data scientist approved. We're currently looking to get it posted and hopefully filled by this summer to help us with some of this data analysis of these accounts, and again, being proactive with reaching out with these customers. Another number I wanted to share with you all this morning is our number of delinquent accounts. So while I say we have around 2,400 bill disputes, we have around 25,000 delinquent accounts. We want to be able to reach out to these customers so that they don't have to reach out to us, to ensure that they understand what's going on with their account. If they have questions about their account, what can we do to help them? And what can we do to get them to a current status?
So not only are we looking at the account health currently of our entire population, but we also want to make sure that we're using technology right now to help our full customer base, not just our smart meter customers. And one of the ways that we're doing that is with our new meter reading technology that was rolled out this month. So this new handheld allows our meter readers to take a physical picture of that final read that's GPS enabled and has a timestamp on it. So this allows us to ensure that data integrity all the way from the read to that final bill. It's another one of those checks and balances that's putting in place, so we're using technology for that transition. And some new technology that's coming up with our smart meter program is our customer portal that's coming out later this year. That's your modern account management tool. It really lets customers see the way that they use water and understand what that means. It also has customizable alerts and notifications, things like a potential leak alert. If the water is going through that meter 24 hours a day, it can alert the customer automatically. It also has bill tracking. So if you want to put a maximum bill amount down and say you don't want your bill to go over $100, it can let you know if you're on track for that or not, if you might need to change your behavior in order to meet that goal. So it allows you to customize the alerts for the way that you want to be communicated with. We do have the ability also to mirror with the customer. So we can see what they're seeing and we can actually walk them through so they understand the technology. And for those customers that aren't particularly interested in using the technology, we can also set up automated phone calls so that they can still be alerted about something that might affect them or their bill, but they don't necessarily have to use the portal to get that benefit. But we don't want to wait until the customer portal is available. We want to be able to use this information now to talk more effectively with our customers. So these are screenshots that are from our current meter software system that we use internally. Our smart meter team, our strike team, and also our customer service reps have been trained on this technology and how to utilize it. You can see the customer at the top was asking about their water usage, and we were able to determine that there was a very high spike in usage over the weeks shown, and those happened to be the weeks of Mardi Gras. So it allowed that communication to flow more effectively with that customer. Down at the bottom, this customer was asking how they could be using the amount of water they were using. So we were able to see that they had about an hour and a half every morning from their daily irrigation. And we're able to translate that amount of water that's going through the irrigation into that total usage for that customer. One of the most important communications specifically with our customer is potential leak alerts. What that means is there's water going through your meter 24 hours a day, and we want to let customers know about these situations. You'll have continuous usage for your big multifamilies and some commercial buildings. They have things like equipment that uses makeup water, so that water will go through 24 hours a day. But for your residential customers, it's not as common. So when that alert does come out, we want to make sure that we're telling our customers now about that situation so that there's no potential damage to their property and it doesn't have an impact on their bill. So we are sending out these letters to customers with this information about what that usage looks like, when the potential leak started, and how they can take next steps to get it addressed. This will be handled by the customer portal later this year, but for now we want to be proactive and let customers know when we know. Another way that we're ensuring change management is through investing in our current workforce. We need to invest in the people that are doing the work. As y'all pointed out, we are short-staffed, so we want to make sure that we're giving our people the best tools they possibly can to be successful with this new technology. We've been engaging with in-person workshops for several years because we want to make sure that the end users, those departments, have been involved with the design from the beginning. So it makes sense that they can use this technology to change the way that they do daily business. We also complete functional needs analysis that lets us identify those potential gaps in our current function. So the data scientist series that Susanna mentioned earlier were one of those gap analysis needs that allowed us to create new positions with civil service so we can start filling those roles because it's something that we're going to need now and in the future. We also are continuing our hands-on training. You know, a lot of people learn to do by doing. I'm one of them, so we want to continue to give people the opportunity to physically go touch the technology, look at the meters, look at the radios, but also play in the software. We want them to have real-world examples of how they can use it, how it can change their daily work, so that they understand what this technology can do for them every day to make their jobs just a little bit easier. But one of the most important conversations that happens, and I know y'all receive these questions, we receive these questions every time we talk to the customer, is how do we talk about all these changes and the exciting things, the new SAT word panacea that we all know now, how do we communicate what that really means to the customers? And so when we talk about this, the question is always, how much is it going to cost me? Right? And so that's the question that we want to directly address to our customers.
But there's another bottom line here, though.
Okay.
We want a smart system to eliminate dumb outcomes.
Correct.
So there's a level of understanding on both sides.
Correct.
So the system can be as smart as you want it to be, of the old system or the new system. But if the outcomes are not smart, if the outcomes are dumb, then that gives you the same result. So, I mean, you know, in terms of cost, that's fine. But a lot of people, if there was some smart outcomes, then they would understand a little better.
That's a very good point. Obviously, what needs to be, focused on is that these are new meters that are accurate and very trusted. We are very, very confident of the numbers that these smart meters are going to produce. So we're going to stand behind these numbers, and we're hoping and trusting that our customers will do the same, and they're going to see the consistency, the accuracy, and the timeliness of the builds.
And
it's going to be.
I hate to jump in,
Yeah.
Councilmember Giarrusso. I know I'm going to echo him. One of the problems is y'all stand by stuff already in terms of disagreements with the citizens. And not saying that you're right or wrong, but it's how do we resolve these issues? Customer service is a real thing. And so when you talk about standing by, I think what the citizens think for far too long, they've seen government agencies stand by stuff that doesn't work for them. You understand my
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And I think the dynamics are going to change. And currently, we suffer from lack of trust in the integrity of the numbers they're producing. Sometimes and often we are right, sometimes we are wrong. And that's why we encourage folks to come to the table and dispute a bill so we can, basically truth it out, investigate, and come to a good, fair conclusion. I think that with the smart meter as a holistic approach is going to bring a lot more confidence in what those numbers are going to look like. We're going to be more confident than we are today. So we know that the dynamics are going to be very different. So the biggest challenge we have today is the current situation with some of our customers who have outstanding balances, that obviously we're going to do everything we can to clean those balances. So when we start with the smart meter, we're starting fresh, we're starting clean. Now, a dispute can only be resolved if there's a mutual agreement, right? So if we come to that agreement, it's a very good scenario to have. If we don't, we're going to separate the two the best we can and continue to try to resolve it one way or another, hopefully in favor of the customer. But the moving forward with a brand new accurate number, there will be no reason to dispute, no reason not to pay, no reason to stay current. I mean, again, this is a game changer for the city, for not just for the utility, in terms of removing this very uncomfortable, unfortunate situation that has been created because of the billing situation we have. So while we need to be realistic, we need to be practical, we need to clean up all the disputed accounts, we need also to acknowledge that the future can and should and will look much, much different in the interest of the customers.
Councilmember Giarrusso.
Thank you. I know I keep on asking the same question, but I really want like an answer to how we do this. So you have Ms. Smith. She's had a bad estimate. It's gotten into the system. She's had to fight it. Maybe she does or doesn't have a resolution. First, what happens when the smart meter gets resolved to make sure her bill is clean?
In the scenario where the resolution hasn't been achieved, we're going to capture that outstanding balance on the side and then start with a fresh number saying, okay, this is practically undisputable. We know we started with zero and we are 100% confident with the number that this smart meter is producing. And then we can focus on moving forward. There's really no reason not to pay your bill.
Right, but I guess I'm talking about let's start before smart meter. I want to say, let's say her bill is on average $125 a month, and she gets an estimate of $250, double the bill. Bill shouldn't have gone out, bill should have been flagged, all those things, not done. The estimate is bad. What happens to that to rectify the challenge Ms. Smith has had for 3 months, 6 months, trying to fix her bill?
We're going to make every effort to resolve that dispute, again, to start with zero. In our interest, and obviously more important in the interest of the customer. We're going to put an exerted effort in solving and cleaning as many of these disputed accounts before a smart meter bill is sent.
Okay.
So that's our goal.
All right, so then, stop there. So with Ms. Smith, how is that going to be categorized? Ms. Smith is double, she goes first. Is it because her bill hasn't been resolved in 9 months? What is the system for systematically working through her bad bill? Because, I mean, again, I'm trying to go through the situations we see the most frequently and how it's going to be resolved.
Yeah, and thank you, Councilmember Giarrusso. So this, we already passed this slide, but this slide, the one with the criteria.
Right.
So this is the first, let's say, filter of different types of accounts and different status and the path that each of those will go through. So if you look at this slide, there's a column that says open investigation, yes or no, right? So I guess the simplest way of describing it is 2 buckets, right? Accounts without a dispute accounts with a dispute like the one that you're using as an example. And I think Susanna can provide more additional details as to how those accounts are going to be treated and how they're going to be analyzed versus the general population that do not have an open dispute.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we're actually approaching it from multiple standpoints, but, you know, the simplest answer is, you know, we do try to go from oldest to newest first, right? You know, the oldest dispute and work forward. But we do try to look at it from a holistic, like, is there something obviously wrong with the meter or a leak that we need to escalate it a little bit further and triage it that way? So that is something that us as a strike team is trying to assist the investigation and help them prioritize the work. We're also actively looking at what it would take to, you know, just perhaps, again, get help from outside to help us clear out all these investigations so these people don't have any lingering issues. So that is currently in the works now as well.
Is that going to be the internal function, or is that going to be part of Stephanie Hilferty's, Representative Hilferty's bill?
It's a combination of both. Obviously, we're hoping and counting on additional resources that Representative Hilferty's bill will bring to us in terms of neutrality, objectivity, and resources that help decipher and ascertain all the conflicts and then clear them as much as and as fast as we can. I mean, that's the main goal.
Right.
Not just the disputed ones. We're going to try to reach out and take that first step, reaching out to the delinquent accounts and then bring them to the table and again resolve them. And if they are 100% in favor of the customer, so be it. That again, for us as a utility and as a city, for the smart meter program to work, has to clear all the disputed accounts. That's not to say we're not going to have a dispute here and there.
Sure.
But we want to clear the books of all the outstanding, I mean, enormous numbers that we've been carrying for years.
But like that's been sort of a pinch point from the very beginning. Is we'll send a bill. It's very clearly wrong. It's got to go through an investigation process, then maybe an adjudicatory hearing, then maybe something after it, maybe not. Who's going to be or who will be the people? Is it Renee and others?
Well, the 25, so right now we have 2,400 disputes, roughly. Those accounts will be analyzed individually, every single one of those accounts. We don't want to take, like you said, the baggage of the old status because of, you know, whatever problem there was into the new experience of the customer. So those accounts will be reviewed by the strike team. We are also working to bring on additional resources, external resources with specific skill set to help us with both the disputed accounts and also with the delinquent account bucket.
All right, so let's say Ms. Smith is in the process, she's disputing, y'all install smart meter. How long should it take for Ms. Smith to see her bill resolved, one way or the other, whether in her favor or in the utility's favor?
Before the smart meter is introduced?
Yes.
Well, I don't know if I can give you a set day, but it's going to be much, much faster where we are today. A couple of reasons. Obviously, Renee, what indicated, we're bringing more resources to decipher and again, you know, try to make a judgment at a much, much faster rate and earlier. So to avoid even the administrative hearing, whether it's ours or yours, but also we're bringing outside resources to help us with investigation. We're bringing a team of folks who will be out in the field doing as many investigation to feed into these decisions that the new unit will rely on. So we believe it's going to be much, much more streamlined, much faster. Again, with the hope that, you know, we want to clear as many of those accounts, if not all of them, before the smart meter is fully implemented.
Okay, and then I guess my last question is,
And Joe, really quick,
Yeah.
because I had to ask Susanna,
Yeah.
but the answer right now would be specifically within 1 to 2 months.
okay, all right, good. That's helpful, thank you. And then Ms. Smith now has had this bad bill. She's been through the process. It's taken her a period of months to get this resolved. I appreciate the fact you're trying to tell people your water bill could be higher. What is the explanation, Ms. Smith, of now your bill is going to be, and I'm going to take the midpoint of 5 to 10%, so 7.5%. Now your bill is going to be $135 per month instead of $125.
Go ahead.
Good question.
Yeah, so you can see these are our population, these are our ages, and we understand the reality of the public trust, especially in billing and the historical billing recently. So we didn't just want to take 5 to 10% as the national average, as most utilities do. The reason why you see that increase in precision is because our meters in the ground are mechanical meters. That means they have pieces on the inside that physically move, so over time they get gunked up and they slow down. And it actually takes more and more water on the front end to start the movement. So those low flow applications aren't even sometimes being captured at all. And so we wanted to understand, though, what that potential switch from a mechanical meter to a static meter, our new technology, would look like for our population with our meter age and the way that we use water. So we didn't just want to stand on the 5 to 10%. We wanted to actually look what our population looked like. So we did a further detailed model analysis of what that could potentially look like for our population.
Yeah, but I guess my question is, yeah.
So this is what it looks like, we think, currently, with our population of meters, based using the information of the smart meters that were currently in the ground at the time this analysis was done.
Right, but I guess but look, I think you hit on the implicit problem is there's a credibility issue. So this person, I've had all these problems, my bill has a high estimate, the estimate is clearly wrong, I thought that, and now Sewage and Water Board is telling me my bill is 10% higher and will be forever and ever. I mean, how do we get over that gap of the water flow was bad for 5 or 10 years and you've been underpaying? I mean, how to rebuild the credibility, show them factually this is what the water flow really is.
Yeah, so I think a couple of you brought up kind of similar points, right? Like how do we build the credibility back, right? That's kind of the theme. And I think it's just going to take time and transparency and education, right? And listening. So some of the things that Smart Meter is going to do and some of the things we're working on with our current CIS system is automation. Try to take some of the manual intervention away, because we all know the more manual intervention there is, the more prone to error we can have. And I think if we can show that to the community and show them the process, I think that could help. So that will be one solution. I think, with the increase in the bill, again, we can show them the data of, they'll have the customer portal, which I know isn't available right now. It should be coming
Later this
So
year.
it's a very user-friendly interface for them to be able to see and track their usage. Again, I think that'll be the transparency part. So I don't know if that answers your question as much as you were looking for, but I think it's
going to be, thank you, Susanna, about centered around customer education, and a key component of that will be the customer portal, because given that the meter is going to be communicating and providing usage every hour, then customers can sign into their portal and self-monitor their usage at any given point. So that's an action that a customer can take on their own without really just being the word of the Sewage and Water Board and more their usage at home.
Let me just say this. I think this is going to require, I appreciate the fact that you're saying this now, we have media here, but I think it's going to require a significant public educational campaign too, and that we're going to have to be very much out there saying, hey, if you're a commercial multifamily, your bill could go up by as much as 25%. I mean, that's what your own data is saying. Right. And then how do we talk about phasing that in or what it all looks like? Because on the one hand, we can't not have people pay for a service they're receiving. But on the other hand, there will be sticker shock attached to some of this too. And if people are going to have heart attacks because of bills, it needs to be based on facts and accuracy and building that trust. And you're taking that first step today. We appreciate that. But then I think there has to be a whole A, public explanation, and B, potentially what phase-in looks like, because I'm, you know, I look at some of my colleagues, I'm quite confident that if some of these bills go up 17 to 25% on commercial, multi-residential, we're going to start hearing about this is part of the problem, and insurance rates are high, and property taxes have gone up, and so how do we make sure that we implement this collectively in a way that's fair and equitable, and that passes a smell test?
Correct.
We welcome any opportunity that you may offer when you host meetings with your constituency. You know, we would love to be part of that and to continue the education and dialogue.
Yeah, so one of the next things I actually wanted to talk about was what we're calling a transition bill. It would be the first smart meter bill with an actual read on it. And so we wanted to be very intentional, Councilman Giarrusso, just to your point of helping the customer phase into this new data, new billing, and also make sure that, you know, we keep in mind that we're not passing on anything that shouldn't be passed on to the customer. So, for example, with the current customers that have smart meters in the ground, we intentionally have not billed actual reads because we wanted to test and test and test the bill process to make it right with smart meters. So they've been getting estimates, right? For meters in the future, once we do start billing, they'll have the old meter that get pulled from the ground and the new meter put in, so they'll have a true up. So we wanted to think about a design. So we used the council ordinance as reference with the 120% caps. So what we are, what we've designed is that the first bill would not be greater than 120% of your 12-month average. So if anything above that 20%, we would proactively adjust for the customer for their first smart meter bill.
And that's to address Councilmember Giarrusso's sticker shock. So
Yeah.
call it bill shock, right? I've been in billing for many years, and whenever there's a change to an account, you get your first bill with prorated charges, fees, that sort of thing. So Susanna's going to go through the process, and yes, we use the City Council billing ordinance as a guide for the cap of 20%.
That's correct. And so we anticipate about 70% of our customers won't see greater than that impact, and about 30% will. The next thing that, the next thing is how we're going to communicate this to the customer. Again, we're trying to push out as much communication as we can. So there will be messaging on the bill that will have information about this has smart meter data on it. This is a website you could go to for more information. There's also going to be an insert in the bill. So over to the right-hand side, you'll see a letter that will go in everybody's first smart meter bill explaining what they're receiving.
Well, we also want to give customers the ability to potentially offset any bill impacts with the new precision of the meter. So the way that we do this is through education and really empowering our customers with the way that they use water and what that means and how it can translate to a bill. So one of the most common leaks that you have, for instance, is a toilet leaking. Our old mechanical meters might not have picked up that low flow, but our new ones will. So one of the ways that residents can immediately go test is you can put food coloring in the back of your toilet. If you see that color seep through, you have a potential leak. To change out one of those toilet flappers costs $5. You can do it very easily. It's on the package. Even I can do it, so everyone can make that happen. Also educating customers on things like what irrigation might mean. You know, if you're using a hose pipe, that's 1,000 gallons per hour that's going through that pipe. So when you talk about ways that you can potentially offset, you can look at maybe I don't need to water every single day, maybe I can do every other. So there's ways like that that we want to provide the information to our customers about best practices in water conservation that they can use to determine how they want to use water and how it will eventually impact our bill. But the reality is that everything that we're talking about, smart meter program, any kind of massive change, transformational change, is extremely difficult. And we know that, and we are, facing it head on from a variety of different directions. And these are the metrics that we're using internally to track that project success and to make sure that we're continuing to move the needle to the right as we become the utility that our customers deserve.
Councilmember King, you want now or you want to do it? Go ahead, you can finish. I know you're almost
We're
finished.
happy to answer any questions that you have.
Okay. Council, are you finished your presentation?
Yes, sir.
Councilmember King.
All right, thank you. So yes, I do have a few questions. If they're redundant, just let me know, and I'll move on. Are there any external resources that you are looking at to assist with resolving disputed bills?
Yes, we are. As smart meters continue to be installed and mechanical meters continue to be replaced, we expect a gradual decrease in the number of disputes, while parallel to that, we're resolving the current customer disputes. And we've gone from, we had an average historically of around 4,500, between 4,500 and 5,000 customer disputes, and now we're at around 2,500, so we've cut that in half.
Okay.
But yeah, we're certainly looking at external resources with additional skills to tackle the disputes and also the delinquent accounts.
So I would like to know, can you let us know what or who those resources are when they're coming online?
Excuse me?
Yes, we will inform you of who we will be utilizing, if that's what you're asking.
Yes.
Yes, absolutely.
Any idea who that is? Or
Yeah, in
when
terms
they'll
of-
come in?
We have some investigation work that we're gonna outsource, and that's coming up. We're very close to starting that work. We're gonna also, on the other end, bring more arbitrators, basically, or mediators to look at each account using the investigation that we bring them with the new resources to help expedite the resolutions and clean the slate, basically, as fast as
So when would that start? When can we see the process of this investigation starting?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we are starting that process right now. We do have external partnerships in place to have data scientists. That account analysis that we're doing takes into account data, what their average bill looked like to make sure it should be where it should be and following the norms of change in water usage based on seasonality. So we're looking at that. We're also bringing forward some smart meter installations for some of those open disputes. So those installations will be coming starting in the next 2 weeks. So those customers can get the smart meter in the ground so we can compare what that usage looks like to their historical usage and get that resolution with data.
Okay, and
Just
No,
just
go
to
ahead.
add to what Becca just said, so we need two type of skill sets basically to resolve those disputes. One is we need support, which we're already getting, to go capture rereads, so it's out in the field, and then in the office, the data analysis. So we are working to get those two skill sets that we need, and one is happening already.
okay.
Yeah.
And how much are we using local firms to do that? Last thing we need, in my opinion, is to get a firm from out of state to come in and help us with our own problems. So are these local firms that we're using?
We'll be leaning on local firms to help us with this effort for sure.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, and I want to highlight something that I know, I'm not sure you all mentioned, but we've discussed in our Sewage and Water Board meetings. Just want to give the audience a full view of what is happening. Can you kind of let us know when you have these large complexes and there are multiple meters, and the apartment complex owner is responsible for these meters being paid, and they don't, and what kind of position that leaves Sewage and Water Board in, and how many millions of dollars are you all losing from these large landlords, these large property owners refusing to pay their water bill?
Well, unfortunately, we do have quite a few outstanding bills associated with multi-unit buildings amounting to about $4.5 million, roughly. We're dealing with those on individual basis, one owner at a time. That's the only way really to get to a resolution, the most amicable way, obviously. But if that doesn't work, we will use other means. One thing we're not considering, obviously, doing is punishing the tenants by shutting the water off to that complex, because it's no fault of their own why there's a dispute and there's an outstanding balance. So it's not an easy situation, but we're managing it one owner and one account at a time.
So there's about $4.5 million of outstanding bills from just large complex owners. Now, I understand you may have some that you're working things out with, but you have some that are just flat out not paying, have no intention of paying, because there's no real recourse for them. But you can't turn the water off because you can't punish the tenants. It's kind of a game people understand and know how to play it. Just want to put that out there because a lot of folks don't realize that there are some bad actors who are just refusing to play ball with Sewage and Water Board.
We do have legal recourse, obviously, that we can take as a last resort. Obviously, we don't want to be contentious, but if we hit a wall, so to speak, with a customer, and it's clear that they're not intending on paying, then we'll take that last resort recourse.
Okay.
Resolve it.
And for our everyday, like Councilman Jerusalem said, the Mrs. Smiths of the world, are there any talks of an amnesty where we say, hey, this is how much you owe, you pay it, start off at zero? Is that something that's realistic or reasonable?
Well, I wouldn't call it amnesty. Again, we're going to rely on outside resources that bring some neutrality and objectivity to the process, and again, look at as many of the outstanding accounts and resolve them. And if they have to lean in favor of the customer and lean in and make a judgment in the favor of the customer, we will welcome it. We need that outside entity to help us do that, because in our case, obviously we're impeded or precluded from just writing off debt, without a justification and explanation. So we're hoping one current bill at the state level that hopefully will bring us resources to accomplish just that.
Okay. And my last question, and it's really my last question, who are some of these groups that you're looking to bring in?
I'm sorry, one more time.
Can you name some of the groups or the group that you're looking to bring in so the council can have an idea of what's happening?
Names of vendors and contractors, you mean?
Contractors, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. We can send you some names, of course. Yeah.
All right.
And I
Okay.
can assure you, many of them are local.
All right. Well, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Councilmember Marino.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good morning to you all.
Good morning.
So the question that I have is really a question that I've been getting from individuals who've started to now get their smart meters. And that question is, what is the Sewage and Water Board doing to ensure that there are no glitches within the smart meters? And this is a real and important concern, because we have seen in other cities where there have been glitches with the smart meters, including in San Diego. In San Diego, there was a glitch in the technology of one of the vendors, and San Diego apparently knew that there was a glitch, did nothing about it, and more than 20,000 customers were overbilled by millions of dollars, and it turned out to be a huge thing in that city. So what is the Sewage and Water Board doing to ensure that you catch these things and correct them and make sure that customers are not overbilled?
Sure. So as we were talking about earlier, the crutch of this technology is the back end, the interface, how data transfers to all of our different processes. So we have 9 of those interfaces to make sure all of the software talks to each other. So the error you were talking about in San Diego was an error on that back end, that interface. So for us to ensure that we have that oversight mechanism, we do track the metrics between every single one of those steps. So it will alert us if there's any issue in that translation of data. So we know the meters are accurate. We test them. They all come factory tested. We test them when they come out in the field. We test them when they arrive. So we're testing to make sure that they are accurate. and they're actually warranted accuracy for their entire 20-year lifespan, the lifespan of the battery. But we want to make sure that we have that oversight for every single step along the process to ensure that data is accurate from start to finish. And so that's what we're putting in place with the strike team to ensure that we're hitting every single one of those metrics every single step along the way.
Got it. And I know that there is work coming from the legislature to have some type of billing experts come in to the Sewage and Water Board and try to get people's bills, fixed. Is it worthwhile to have some type of third party to kind of double check on the deployment of smart meters? The reason why I say that is that on the city council, when there was deployment of smart meters for Entergy, what our hired consultants, what they would do, our technical experts, were doing a review of what the bills look like for smart meters, also to check for any type of deficiencies, inaccuracies. Would it be beneficial to also have some type of third party kind of checking you all to make sure that everything is fine?
We would welcome that, and outside another layer of validation and verification, that would be like a record set of validation for this process. I don't think any city has gone through the thoughtful and intentional and methodical testing, but I would more than welcome another layer that it would be independent, hopefully resourced or supported, funding-wise to help us do that. That'd be an awesome, step for us and for the city.
Yeah, I just think it goes to what Councilmember Giarrusso had initially been talking about, kind of ensuring trust and building trust on this particular matter. Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Councilmember Green.
Mr. Chair, thank you for this opportunity. I just want to say that it is certainly pleasing to see this rollout of the smart meters, and I appreciate the fact that we'll be at 50% of the 140,000 accounts by the end of the year. I just want to emphasize to you and to all associated with it to overdo it on the education. Have a meeting in each council district maybe once a year or something like that, just something simple that allows people to come in and see a face and get hands-on support, if you will. For example, Entergy is having a town hall meeting in my district on May the 3rd, or whatever the date is. Sorry if I'm wrong on the date. But the bottom line is that the more that we can do that, and it doesn't take a lot of people to do it, but if some people come in and they see others who can answer some of their questions, it helps out a lot. So I just want to ask you to overdo it because it is a substantial change. Now, tomorrow's headline is going to be users or receivers of smart meters could see higher bills. Of course, that's what it's going to be. So can you talk about also how potentially smart meters could help lower bills for some customers?
Sure. So one of the things that we found is that now that we have those continuous leak alerts, we can actually talk to the customers about what's going on. So we did have a property, it was a multifamily property, and they had over 13 meters in the ground. And it had been a long-standing dispute for many years, and we couldn't quite get to a resolution because the customer couldn't understand how much water could potentially be lost under the ground. They were having in one of their meters 400 gallons going into the ground per hour. So when you add that up over a month, it had a significant bill impact. But what we were able to do with this technology is we were able to find that leak, and then they were able to get a plumber and inspect that and get that leak fixed. And then that meter came back within the expected usage, and their bill did significantly go down. It also just provides visibility to customers, right? Just like irrigation. Does it need to be irrigated every single day? What does that add up to? And when you understand the way that you use water and how it can impact your bill, you can then just decide and be enabled as a customer on how you can maybe use better water conservation mechanisms that can in fact lower your bill.
Please overdo it on the education. Let people know that.
Really.
Any increase that customers see would not be a result of a rate increase. It's important to recognize that.
It's accurate.
It will be a result of more sophisticated analysis of the water that is going through the meters.
More accurate
I don't want
registration.
that to be part of the headlines. It's not a rate increase. I want our customers to understand that. And most people could potentially see a decrease. There's only one committee that gives me the opportunity to say this, and it's the Public Works Committee. I want to read some headlines Staff to be beefed up to handle utility bill complaints. Residents grapple with surging water bills. Customers struggling or parish struggling with call volume over billing issues. Water bill doubled over the months. Parish residents frustrated with billing issues. Parish frustrated with crush of calls from customers. 36,000 households with raw sewage in rear yards and in ditches. Flooding problems. Those headlines don't come from Orleans. Those headlines come from surrounding parishes. 36,000 households in St. Tammany Parish experiencing problems.
That's
with
not
raw
news.
That's not news.
The people in those parishes can suffer, and they wouldn't want to blame the officials in those parishes.
Right.
The officials in this parish look differently.
I know you know where I'm going with that. And I want to say to the media, but I also want to say to Governor Landry and his supporters who created the task force, what a great idea for a task force, even though I think it was a little bit concerning that we didn't have one member of the New Orleans City Council which governs rate increases on that task force. But let's make it clear. I think that some of the articles that we're seeing now relative to 500 leaks a week in a surrounding parish, raw sewage in the backyards, people complaining about billing concerns, has to do with the fact that we're now focusing a bit more maybe on sewage and water issues. I want to encourage us to recognize that it is a regional issue. It is a regional problem. The manifold leaks that we see in other parishes, the flooding that took place, which in some areas was more severe in other parishes last week or 2 weeks ago than it was here in Orleans Parish. Long after our issues were cleaned up relative to getting the water out of the streets, and there's no justification for water in the streets. I don't say that at all, but I want to make it clear that I'm calling on the state to look on a regional level. We have concerns here regarding our topography. We have concerns here regarding the age of our infrastructure. We have the same concerns in Orleans Parish that exist in surrounding parishes. Let's not use Orleans Parish. Let's not use the Sewage and Water Board alone as a scapegoat to avoid the responsibilities that the state of Louisiana has, especially with an agency that it created and an agency whose state laws govern it. We see the laws taking place in the legislature now. There's a reason, because state law governs the Sewage and Water Board, much of what the Sewage and Water Board does. So I hope that there can be a discussion of funding, of money, of making the many millions of dollars available to our city and to the region that will help us and to enhance our ability to withstand flooding. All that I'm asking is that I understand we have our problems. I understand what the headlines will look like. But let's look at what's going on in the region, and for the sake of making a better New Orleans, let's make a better region. Let's address our concerns on a regional level, members of the state delegation, and also our governor. Let's look at it to see how we can make New Orleans better by making our region better. Thank you.
I mean, I dare you expect the state to do its job.
How dare us, right?
Wow, 17% of the state's water systems received an F. 17%, you're not going to see that on the press. I would hope that the state would be working to get its infrastructure in order rather than threatening local municipalities about their infrastructure or come up with some funding. The other thing is Louisiana is last. I think it's the bottom 2% or 3% in terms of how the state do the state's infrastructure. So how does a state that ranks below a city in the metro region tell us what to do with our infrastructure? To the life of me, I haven't figured out how the story, other than it just has to do with that, whether it's our local press or whether it's the demographic of the city or whether it's just age-old story that goes back to the Constitutional Convention in 1890, the one in 74. That's just the story that they want you to know. And it has to be about New Orleans. We're losing population in this entire region. So even our metro area partners who brag about how good it is there, you highlighted some statistics. If they were so great, why is there population loss in those areas? So at some point, council member, and hopefully my voice holds up, there needs to be an effort to work together around solutions and how we can come together rather than pointing fingers or pointing blame, right? Just because it historically, that's always been the playbook. We keep running off tackle, and they keep stacking the defense off tackle. They did it in the 70s. They did it in 1980 when Dutch Morial issued the reform report of the Sewage and Water Board. They did it in 82, 83 when the state tried to take over the Audubon Zoo, and they had to fight there. They did it over casino support services when we put up $23 million and they said take 3.6. So that narrative is going to continue. It's not sexy for them to report about, you know, about the state handling this business before it tells us to handle our business. And I wasn't going to say all of that until you opened up the door for it. We talked very little about that $11 or $12 million contract before you got here in the last administration. That the software for the billing, how much did they spend on that contract?
Around that number.
Around 11 or 12 million. That was supposed to solve the billing issues. Why didn't it? And why don't we talk about that? Because that was the start of people's bills, and that was what, 6 or 7 years ago? That was the start of people's bills being 5, 6, 7, and 10 times higher than they were normally. Why is that not an issue anymore?
Well, it is an issue. The best way to describe what we bought, you know, back in 2016 is a software that was supposed to or meant to automate the entire process of billing, what in fact it didn't. There still continues to this day.
Did we get our money back from that 12 million
Well,
that was supposed to do something but didn't? Well, were there any clauses in the contract that said if you can't fix the billing or automation, and if you're sending out bills that are 5, 6, 7, 10 times more, that we would get a refund? That $12 million ain't nothing to sneeze. That was 6 or 7 years ago, I think.
I took the position not to look too far back. The decision was made, the purchase was made, the decision, it's a software that
Are you still using it?
we are using it by default. That's the only software that we have that we purchased.
So by default, we're still paying the price for a system that government purchased
with the full
in the last administration that you couldn't rely on then.
right.
And how do we expect to rely on it now?
With the full intention to replace what we have now once we fully implement this.
So I'm using
software.
something broken in hopes that it's just broke enough so that I can replace it with something that's right. Remember I said smart meters, we don't want dumb outcomes?
We all recognize that what we have is not sufficient, is not adequate. We are doing our best to optimize its ability to get us over the finish line with the smart meters. Then it's a new day in terms of what that new software would look like.
What could you have done with
Automation.
those $12 million had you had those $12 million now instead of investing in a system that never worked?
Yeah.
If money matters, maybe it all depends on who's spending the money and when. If $12 million matter, what could you have done with that $12 million?
Yeah, that decision was made, and we're doing the best we can with that.
When was that decision made again? You remember exactly?
7 years ago or so.
7 years, 7, 8 years ago.
But again, focusing on the future,
Yeah.
full implementation of smart meter, new software for our billing, and you know, hopefully the headline will be today is that we're delivering more accurate and timely bills moving forward.
Well, I'm not trying to focus on the past. It's just evident that we're still, bless you, we're still relying on a system that was broken then, is broken now, and will continue to be broken until we do something different.
And that's.
Did I say anything wrong?
No, and that's the key, I think, what you just said, until we do something different. And, I mean, for all matters of transparency, it's not just the billing system that is very limited functionality-wise, but also the Sewage and Water Board's historic inability to collect actual reads in a consistent manner. So that's what will change, and that's what smart meters will resolve, because when we have smart meters, then actual reads are collected every single month. So the system receives actual accurate reads, and that's what's going to enable the system to produce actual and accurate bills.
Because of my voice, I was trying not to, but Councilmember Green set something up, and I think the lemon and tea is helping me hold up a little better. But I had another question, and I had it written here. I was not going to answer it because my colleague has done such a good job, I think, at covering most bases. But many meters out there are blocked. Citizens actually, and businesses actually set up so you can't come read the meter, so you can't access the meter. And that's actually an underground message out there. Hey man, just block your meter. What are you guys doing to deal with that? Because that's like growing gossip in the community. Hey man, you don't want them to read your bill, just block your meter. Put a car over it. Put some concrete over it.
Absolutely.
Or build an enclosure where they can't get to it.
Well, once we have a smart meter installed at that location, then you can block it all you want. We will be able to capture the reads and the consumption.
That's with the smart meter.
Yes.
But with the now, it's just blocked.
Right, and there are policies that are in place that help
Can't
us.
bring the police out or some enforcement agency?
Actually, those meters that have been inconsistently read due to access issues are on our priority list for replacement for the smart meters. Once we have a smart meter installed, then there's no way to interfere with us obtaining a read.
All right, thank you guys. And thank you guys. Great presentation about how we move into the smart ages, from the dark ages, I say. Mr. Corbin, any closing comments?
Again, we appreciate the opportunity. We certainly appreciate the feedback and the insight. And again, we're very excited about where we are and where we're heading, and I hope that, the audience appreciates, how positive, how bright the billing future looks like for the city.
Yeah, they appreciate progress. It's just always interesting to me what started the problem and who started the problem. History is important. You don't know where you're going unless you know where you've been. And it's just real obvious to me that there's certain people, certain times you're allowed to make mistakes. You're allowed to even get it wrong. So, I just think that's in large part that citizens need to know that this isn't anything that your administration or the Sewage and Water Board or even many of the folk in office now, they didn't maliciously do this. This was something that was done before, and a lot of people are paying the price for it now. Hey, man.
Mr. Chair,
Yeah.
as we close, I know that those.
No, you can close.
Okay. I want to announce that on May the 2nd, at the City Council meeting, as part of a special order of business, I'll be presenting Sewage and Water Board work crew members and expressing recognition of them and thanks to them. A story that is untold in our city, of which 50% of our city is below sea level, is the number of leaks that take place because of settling concrete, people running into fire hydrants. I never knew there were so many people who ran into fire hydrants and other matters along those lines. I believe that in the midst of our challenges, in the midst of those things that cause us concern sometimes, when jobs are being done fairly well in quiet, that they need to be brought to the light. So I want to invite everybody to recognize that the Sewage and Water Board work crews address hundreds of leaks a year, and many times are swept up in task forces which make it look like everything is bad, or media, for example, which makes it look like there's a leak everywhere and not looking at the ones that are repaired. We'll talk a few numbers during that 15 minutes that I have, but I do want to spread the message that I see the work that's being done. I see the responses early in the morning when I'm on my way to a church on a Sunday morning at Algemeyer and Johnny Jackson Boulevard, and I see a work crew working because the water was shooting up into the air. Those are the things that don't get recognized. I'm not saying that nothing's wrong, because there's a lot wrong. I want to encourage people to join the the Sewage and Water Board for those work crews, but I also want us to recognize that in a city that is 50% below sea level, with settling taking place in some areas at an inch per year, putting pressure on those pipes underground, it could be a lot worse. That's all. But thank you for your work that you do, and thank you, Mr. Councilman.
Thank you. Ms. Curran, next item on the agenda, please.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gorman. Thank you, team.
Councilman, would you like to return to motion 24-175?
Yeah, please. Read the motion.
This is the one authorizing the president of the council to sign amendment number 7 to the contract between the city and professional accounting management.
Moved by?
I think Councilmember Jerusa had some
We need someone here from the administration to deal with that motion. Are they here?
If not, move to defer.
No, they're here.
They're here? Okay.
Councilman, that said the motion, we defer.
Okay. Thank you.
Good morning.
You want an explanation for the motion for the SP Plus and the PAM, is that my understanding? Yes. So both of those will be extensions to to allow us to continue to do enforcement of our meters. One contract does human resources support with their handhelds and their ticket collections, and the other one does meter support, where for meter rentals, meter repairs, meter maintenance, and processing meter tickets.
Councilmember Jerusa.
Okay, so I just want to make sure I understand. We have the people who physically are employed by the city, and they do the metered work, but then these contracting are help with inside HR support and making sure the meters themselves are in good working order?
Yes, well, one of them does the handhelds that we use, so they'll do all the service, the supply, and then the collections from those. And then the other one does the meters from text to pay and meter rentals and the meter maintenance.
Okay. All right, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Councilmember, you comfortable enough to move? Moved by Councilmember Jerusa.
Second.
Seconded by Councilmember Green. All in favor?
I'm not going to. All right.
Any opposed? Ayes have it, so ordered. Thank you, guys. Ms. Curran.
Your final agenda item is presentation from the Department of Public Works regarding JIRR, catch basin cleaning, street light maintenance and repairs.
You guys could announce who's at the table and start your presentation, please.
Kristen Watson, Public Works.
Kali Sali, Public Work.
Shannon Blanks, Public Works.
Katie Rodriguez, Public Works.
Catch basins, street lights, repairs. Waiting on you guys.
Okay. Good morning. I would like to start with the GIR updates. Since May 2018, DBW have completed around 186 projects with about amount of total $765 million. The Department of Public Works continue to review plans and projects and send them to construction. We actively continue on monitor on the projects that are in construction currently. DBW currently right now, we have about 27 projects that they are, and the slide number 1, that they are on construction. Majority of those projects are on almost 90%, should be complete. So most of these projects will be completed before the end of the year. We're anticipating all these projects should be complete by the end of this year and should be coming to substantial. Some of them will be coming to substantial complete within the next 90 days. Next, you want to go into? If you like, I could go project by projects if you wish.
If council members have questions on individual projects, that's it's up to them. If not,
just continue?
Yeah.
Okay.
Please.
We are looking at the 90 days. Like I said, we have a 90 days look ahead. With these projects, the 90 days look ahead will be definitely working the substantial complete all these projects and doing a bunch list with the contractor and finalizing and complete them. We have DBW right now have routing projects to go into construction. Those 80 projects are RR129, RR217, and RR068, which is Milan, Florida area, and Iberville, Tulane. They already been awarded to contractors. We are waiting on the contract to be signed by the administration and by the contractors, and we will issue for them the NTB within the next 30 days from the day it's been signed. The other ones, 82, is the final design have been reviewed and completed. We anticipate to route it to purchasing for advertisement within the next 2 weeks. RR39 is in the final design process as well, which is Fillmore Group Group C. And this one will be advertised also hopefully within the next 30 days. RR211, we are finalizing the bid items right now, and we are reviewing the plans and the specification and the cost estimate. Make sure everything is in the project is captured before it goes into construction. The same thing with RR219. We are evaluating these projects as well, and it should be routed and advertised before this summer. So everything, hopefully it will be NTB to construction for those 8 projects. Hopefully it will be within the next, before the end of the year, it will be advertised and NTB issued for construction. Any questions?
Yeah, I have a quick question. On slide 5, the infrastructure progress update, and also going on to number 6, can you send to us when the commencement of these projects started? I just want to know, I just want to take a look at the timelines of these particular projects as well.
You want me to give you a timeline when was it started?
Yeah.
Yes. You want to go by one by one?
If you have the information now,
I have it somewhere
look
in
at you. Let's go.
Okay, RR109, which is Lower Ninth, Group B. This one was awarded, I know it's more than 3 years ago, but we had, during the survey process, we ran into conflict with the sewer force main, I think on, I forget the name of it, but it's like at the 90-degree bend on the intersection of North Tonti. And we had to rescope the projects. So the drain line was on the design. It was the survey missed the sewer force main. So it kind of like the drain came in conflict with the sewer force main. And not to go to avoid touching the sewer force main, those 2 blocks on the Lower Ninth Ward were left like untouched until we redesign it. And right now we anticipated to finish hopefully by the end of this month.
Okay.
So the contractor is going there, addressing, we changed the layouts of the drainage, so it will not be conflicting with the sewer force main. And in the future, in case we need to do any maintenance, we don't have to damage a new drainage that is sitting on top of. So we did route the drainage, and that's why we abandoned it. It's not abandoned, it was like untouched for almost 4 or 5 months until we completed the design and the survey and rerouted the drainage. So we'll avoid the conflict in the future.
Appreciate that. And look, I don't need you to go through all the issues that you had with each project. Just tell me when like you did with this one, when was was each one awarded, and so I can understand the timelines here.
112, it was awarded about 3 years ago, back in 2020, end of 2020. And the only delay was in this one is we have to touch Claiborne. We decided the water line has to go from the cross street to touch the Claiborne, and we have to get DOTD permits just to get the routing and the construction.
Okay, the next one?
The next one is 116. That was a $26 million project awarded, but we upscoped it because of the infrastructure. Every time we dug a street, there was a bad water leak that we discovered, and they have a lot of sewer work. So we upscope these projects, and basically every project or every street, we either added a drain line or a new water line or a new sewer.
So when was it awarded?
It should be wrapping up by September of this year.
When was it awarded?
It was awarded in 2020.
2020, great. And 123?
123 is a newly awarded project, and that's the project we are using pipe bursting techniques in it. It was awarded like a year and a half ago,
Okay.
but we are about
125?
to finish it up as well.
125?
125 Mid-City Group B, it was awarded back in 2019, 2020. We had a lot of sewer work replacement, plant
Okay.
replacement, and we're
Well,
about to
just
phase
go
it
through
up.
the years. Just go through the years.
Okay,
130?
130 is in the same range area, 2020.
136?
136, it was a year and a half ago.
Okay.
139 is about 2 years ago. 159 just got awarded like 2 months ago.
Okay.
174 just got awarded, and NTB was about a month ago.
Okay.
183, it was about 3 years ago. 186, it was about 2020 projects.
Okay.
215, it was 2 years ago and is wrapping up, maybe a year and a half ago. 216 just got awarded maybe about 4 or 5 months ago.
And then just go to page 5 real quick and just do the same for me.
003, that was about 3 years ago. Same thing with 004, they went at the same time. And those were huge projects, like almost 400 blocks in each projects. 22 was 2 years ago. 45 was awarded about 6 months ago. 52 was awarded about 6 months ago. 55 was awarded about a year and 3 months ago, something like that. 61 about a year ago. 62, it was about 3 years ago, but this one has a lot of sewer replacement as well. 67 in the same area about 3 years ago. 76 was just awarded about, I would say, 4 or 5 months ago. 91 is the same thing. It was awarded at the same time, like back in November of last year. 100 maybe about 2019 started it, but that should be substantial completion right now. And 105, it was awarded maybe 4 months ago.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, council member. Any other comments from council members? Continue your presentation, please.
All right.
I say you can continue your
Okay,
presentation.
next.
All right, moving
Catch
on to
basin.
catch basins. This will bring us to the ARPA projects that are currently going on. To date, we've had about 150,000 drain line, linear feet of drain line cleared. We've moved about 1,050,000 pounds of debris from our system. We've completed 1,500 catch basin cleanings. We've total drain lines, 389,000. Total catch basins assigned, 3,700. Laterals complete to date, about 20,000 linear feet. I just think that this slide highlights the volume of debris being removed from our system, shows that the need for a proactive and ongoing preventative maintenance of our system with repeated funding. In-house catch basins, we have about 3 daily crews that are out there every single day. During inclement weather, we pull out a street crew and paving and catch basin or asphalt crew and put them on catch basin cleaning as well. We're trying to meet some of the demands by fast-tracking some internal staff, and data from the 2024 projects will be loaded into our asset management, and we'll begin target maintenance efforts to some of the city's hot spots. Just to give you a little insight on what we have on staff right now, we only have about 27 laborers and equipment operators. We have identified roughly 30 additional positions that are needed to work the machines that we currently have on staff.
Excuse me, guys. Thank you. A retired engineer asked me to ask this question. Well, no, Councilmember Jerusalem first.
You go ahead.
Yeah.
We talk about the catch basins, right? But there's a 27-inch drain line that feeds into the system. And many of those drain lines are not there. They're broken. They're clogged. What is the effort? Because you can clean the catch basin all you want. But if that 27-inch drain that feeds into the system, if that's clogged, broken, or not there, that's a whole nother outcome.
That is. We have a
And
CCTV.
you said it is, right?
Yes, it is a problem.
Okay, so why don't we talk more about those 27-inch drains? Because people are thinking if you clean your catch basin, your water's going to drain. No, it's the little pipe that goes into the bigger pipe, that goes into the bigger pipe, that goes into the bigger pipe, that goes into the flooding and drainage system.
Right. That would be our drainage point repair contracts that we need to get online. We have spent those down at this point. So as soon as the
So hold on a second. You can clean the catch basin. It could be spotless, right? It could be like you clean your floor. Everything taken out of the catch basin, all of the trash. With the 27-inch drain, if it's not functioning, it doesn't matter that you cleaned your catch basin. Am I correct?
That's correct.
Then why wouldn't they be more focused on that 27-inch drain? Because that's the problem we're seeing around the community with areas that have not flooded historically, because there's nowhere for the water to drain to into the system. It's like a funnel. So it gathers first.
With the ARPA contracts, there is some CCTV allowed in it. So when they get to a place that has a large obstruction, they will throw the TV in there and you'll be able to see where the defect
My
is.
problem here is this is another age-old discussion. I remember the first one, I think under the Landrieu administration, when they talked about cleaning or replacing those drain lines. And 70-something thousand of them. So evidently it didn't happen. So we're stuck with the same broken system.
The way we structured the ARPA program is they're not only cleaning the catch basins, they are cleaning the catch basins and all of the pipes up to 36 inches where it switches over to sewage and water board. So we had an engineer look at the drainage system and look at where we had repeated flooding calls or other, street subsidence and flooding issues.
So how many of them are broken or in disrepair?
So as they reach a place that they can't clean, so potentially it's clogged or it's broken, they mark that, and we have in their contract, they are doing CCTV to identify where those issues are, and we're hoping to identify some additional funding
So
potentially
of the
with
70,000
ARPA to
plus, how many are broken or in disrepair? How many are not allowing the water to flow into the drainage system?
I think that's an unknown at this point, and we're using this money to identify those issues to be able to
Councilmember
put out a
Caruso.
point.
All right. I want to start with the labor first, please, because a year ago I asked, did we have enough labor to do things? And DPW, not the people here, said, oh, we have enough in JRR, and they didn't say anything about the other places. So I worry if you need 30 more people to do this work, that we're going to constantly be behind. How are we managing outside contracting with internal crews? I mean, if we, and I guess really we can have equipment, that's great, but if we don't have people to operate the equipment, then we have the same problem.
I agree. Prior to 2019, the primary challenge was equipment shortage. So to address that, the funding was used to purchase the necessary equipment to expand the in-house maintenance operations. While we've acquired the equipment, many municipalities are grappling with the post-employment COVID challenges and impacts on population, such as the rental housing caused by the severe weather, Katrina, Rita, Gustav, Ida, and the Great Resignation. So we're working with civil service right now to do a comprehensive pay study. So hopefully we can increase some of those rates and attract some talent that would like to stay with us. As you know, our labor rate is $16.32 an hour, and our biggest competitor in this city is Walmart, unfortunately.
Right. This comment is not directed to you, but I can safely say this council has repeatedly asked, what do we need to do? And I think this week we're going to pass a whole bunch more pay increases. We've been repeatedly asking. So whatever we can do to expedite this labor issue, we want to do, number one. But then number two, in the meantime, we're going to need some real cost estimates about outside vendors. And the bottom line is $3.5 million per year is just not going to get it done. And so what is that number? We need to know that number. I think both to the catch basin cleaning and the line inspection, the CCTV that Katie mentioned, And then what is the number for cleaning the busted linear lines that are 12, 14, 27 inches too?
Sure. I'll get with Director Hathaway and Joe Threat and see if we can get some of those numbers to you.
All right, and then I want to drill down on a couple other things. So I see what DPW is doing, and I'm glad that we've cleaned 1,000 more catch basins between March and April. If we use April as the barometer, that's only 375 catch basins cleaned per month. But if we use the 1,000 between March and April, we could maybe get to 7,000 or 8,000 at the end of the year. What is the realistic expectation of how many catch basins will be cleaned this year?
I haven't been here that long to be able to benchmark that. I'm going to try to dig into some old stuff. We had some technology challenges, but as we are beginning to get our field staff trained up on using tablets, hopefully we'll be able to make a more data-advised decision.
I guess I would just say hurricane season is knocking, and so we need to get on top of that, and I think we need to know the answer. Speaking to that, media is here. I mean, they widely reported the issues on Esplanade and Broad Theater and other places. And I know Broad in that area has been issues since 2017. Are those areas getting more attention because of the fact that catch basins and drainage are clearly not working in those areas?
I would have to get with the maintenance department to see what they found. I know that they've been out there and have done some cleaning and also had identified some manholes that were charged. I think there was some DOTD charged manholes as well, so I just have to get with the state partners to find out what their findings were.
Yeah, I mean, look, everybody who floods, it's an issue for them. And so it doesn't matter in my mind whether it's residential or commercial, but when you've repeatedly flooded and the businesses are saying you may run us out of the city, then I think we need to have a real, and the residents too. I want to be very clear, it's both, that we need to know about that. And then the last piece for me on this is I'm waiting on my drainage studies, and I know resiliency says they don't have it, but if we knew, for example, these are the places, whether it's New Orleans East, whether it's Broadmoor, whether it's Central City, whether it's Mid-City, these places that are routinely flooding based on study, then we could use that too. And I cannot emphasize how important that is to make sure outside of 311 data based on quantitative analysis, what needs to be done.
Great. I will ask Mr. Joe Threat to have that conversation.
All right, so I guess, Shannon, that leaves, let's just go over the order here. So number one, what are we doing about labor and how long it will take to get to civil service? Number two, what are we going to do about outside contracting to help with catch basins, CCTV, lateral line cleaning? Number three, what are the real numbers on catch basin cleaning as a forecast? Number four, what's happening at Esplanade and other places that flooded recently and what's been done in those areas? And then number five, how we're doing the drainage studies in complement with and in concert with catch basin cleaning.
Okay. As far as the staffing, we've identified the individuals that we need, at least on the front level. Support staff and back house will be probably an additional amount of numbers. I've found some places in the budget where we can afford to hire some of these people, and then additional funding will have to be identified from the Joe Threat.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Councilmember Marino.
Thank you. So, on the ARPA catch basin cleaning, which is obviously the slide that we're on, so the council allocated roughly $10 million toward that, is that correct? How much has been spent?
I don't have that with my notes with me today, but I can find out for you.
Yeah, that would be great. Get that to us as quickly as possible, because I know we've been asking a similar question for quite some time. The other kind of question / point I want to make is, Councilmember Thomas was talking about, checking the drains. Then you mentioned about checking some of the lateral lines that go up into the drains. And then you have to stop your work when it gets to 36 inches. because that's where the Sewage and Water Board picks up. I think once again, this brings up one of the issues that we're facing of not having a consolidated drainage system, where now we're going to deal with two different crews dealing with one potential issue. And so you all start the process, but then you have to stop your work, and then Sewage and Water Board has to come in and pick it up. I mean, it's such a overall duplicative and complex and hard to coordinate process, the way that it's currently being run. So hopefully, during this legislative session, we'll get some type of solution and have drainage all consolidated, because I do believe that that efficiency alone is going to create a better service and better product overall. Thank you.
Mr.
Guys,
Chair.
continue. Oh, Councilmember Green, I'm sorry. The screens aren't working.
No, that's all right. Yeah, and they aren't working. Something we need to work on. But at the end of the day, I want to thank those who are involved with catch basin cleaning. But I have a couple of questions that I want to ask that are very specific. At the task force meeting that the governor created, an engineer reported that there was a firm with 100 trucks, vacuum trucks, ready to clean drains. It was just a matter of the city using it. Are you familiar with that one? If you're not familiar with it, then you might not be able to answer it. Because my question is going to be, was there anything that would have stopped a firm like that from bidding on this job of catch basin cleaning?
No.
I believe that to have been kind of inaccurate information. However, since it came out at a task force and the question was asked, I just need to know if you all were contacted about a firm that had 100 vacuum trucks ready to do work on our catch basins. So if you haven't been, it confirms what I kind of suspected. The next thing is I want to encourage the public to recognize that those things that go inside the catch basins don't just automatically come out. They get flushed to some other place. We recently did a cleanup in the Pine Village subdivision in New Orleans East, and catch basin cleanup was included with it. They had a problem getting some catch basins cleaned because they were filled with cans. The can stops everything from going down. Or you see those persons who are doing cleanups after the fall leaf droppings, for example, and they blow the leaves into the drains. I just want to encourage the public to recognize, to help us in this respect, to help all, that those drains aren't miracle workers. They can't get rid of the items that go inside of them, and to whatever extent that we as the public can help, which includes putting pressure on those who cut our grass and clean up our leaves to not blow them into the catch basins, you will help us in terms of addressing flooding concerns. So it's something that I know that is complex, but it's something that we can address. Another thing is that I want to call on the state to set up a mechanism to be more direct in telling us how the state can make money available to the city of New Orleans, the city that the governor wants to see look like other cities, to address some of these issues. For example, the collapsed pipes, which people don't see down the street from a catch basin, the issues relative to collapsed pipes throughout our city, pumping capacity and the like. I think catch basin cleaning is just almost really one example of many of where the state can step in to help the city of New Orleans out, because we have some very unique concerns here. I've mentioned a couple of times 50% of the city being below sea level, which isn't the end of the world because there are other cities that are that way. But I'll tell you that other governmental entities help those cities out as much as possible. So to the extent that we can get some out of this session, cooperation, such that we consolidate drainage and we consolidate some of this work, I'm asking the state to assist us in coming up with the formula to make more money available. Funding and money. I know that we want to talk control, that's happening throughout the legislature, but when I look at things such as the number of bridges that are out along the industrial canal, when I look at things such as the disparity that we have relative to state-maintained highways in certain parts of our city, when I look at some of the concerns that we have, I just recognize that it's a lot bigger than the city of New Orleans, and that I'm looking forward to working with the state. Hopefully, this is the session that we address the cooperation on drainage issues, but we also need to talk about a city that has serious infrastructure problems that provides so much to the state of Louisiana. Let's look and see where we can provide real money to address some of these concerns. That's all.
Thank you, Councilmember.
All right. Moving on to streetlights. 2024 progress. So far, we've repaired approximately 1,400 outages, including states and local roads. Reset 154 leaning poles, installed 39 new poles, and retrieved 58 knockdown poles. Right now, there are about 20 sites with major repairs in progress, impacting about 208 lights. Right now, they have 4 to 6 daily crews addressing streetlight repairs citywide. On an average, the crews do touch about 112 poles per week. Our priorities include our interstates, our RTA bus routes, schools, high-foot traffic areas, St. Charles streetcar line, and other streetcar lines. We just went out with the No Dice program, the pilot program with the DA's office, and identified other locations that lack street lighting underneath our interstate system, under the Claiborne Bridge. We'll also look at large gathering areas, shopping malls, Jackson Square, parks, and NOPD designated high crime locations and Homeland Security crime camera locations as well. As far as the interstate, we had a closure that was supposed to happen on the high rise, but we had, due to the bridge being down, the Seabrook Bridge, I believe it is down, we had to reschedule that. So we are planning that high rise eastbound on 427 and westbound on 428. So we have the multi-day closure to begin addressing the high rise. And then next will be, we're going to target St. Bernard and Elysian Fields, and then we will target Elysian Fields in Paris. The interstate status as far as DOTD's projects, I-610 and I-10, we have about 210 lights taken offline to support their projects. Power has been restored and repaired on Pontchartrain Expressway between South Broad and Carrollton, I-10 in New Orleans East from Bullard to Gannon, I-10 eastbound between Dumaine and Gravier, I-610 eastbound between Henry Thomas Drive and St. Bernard, which approximately 67 lights were restored on 411. We've returned 406 interstate underpass lights, and 400 interstate lights still require repairs. Next portion, I went through that.
Councilmember Marino.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Ms. Banks, as you know, the City Council recently unanimously passed a resolution asking you all to put out an RFP so that we could come up with new solutions to our lighting infrastructure. We just can't keep doing things the same and expect a different outcome. Everything, to look at whether, we can switch out some of our infrastructure to prevent copper thefts, ways to better recognize when you have outages. What's the latest on that RFP?
The Office of Innovation and Technology is currently working with DPW to begin drafting a quasi RFP so we can begin to pilot some of those strategies as soon as possible, especially during our Super Bowl Mardi Gras, so we can really put the items to the test to see what we would like to go forward with. As soon as those technologies have been presented to us, then we can begin moving forward on how we can financially support the pilot. After that, we also have a daytime assessment that will begin pretty quickly as soon as we just give the approval, and the nighttime assessment is starting with the current contract before the end of the month.
And you've also talked to me in the past about automation and being able to set up a system within our lighting infrastructure so that you all can immediately find out when there is a light out instead of having to wait for 311 reports. Can you speak on that?
Yeah. We also have the asset management team that is going to be online that will also capture all of our assets. So moving forward, looking at automation of our street lights, we would like that to marry with our asset or integrate with our asset management. So we would actually see it if we see a stream of lights go down at once. It might indicate that there's either a power failure or somebody has began stealing or vandalizing our asset. So hopefully we can begin to catch it in real time and not after the fact.
Got it. Thank you. Appreciate that update.
You can, Councilmember Green.
Joe?
Yep, thank you.
I'm sorry, Councilmember Giarrusso.
Thank you.
Another G.
Councilmember Moreno, my staff just sent me an email that as of April 8th, for the ARPA catch basin cleaning, the number is $284,486.40. So of the $3.3 million so far, the contractor has submitted invoices less than $300,000. All right, so I want to ask first, specifically the interstate lights from Metairie Road, City Park Avenue through the end of the city have been out since Ida, and I've gotten various answers from DPW about when they will be ready. When will those lights come back online?
Well, after DOTD had completed their repairs, they had to go up there and make sure that there was no damages to the bases of those. I haven't got the word on that assessment yet, but as soon as I do, I'll make a call right after the meeting and update everyone.
And look, Shannon, this comment, I want to be very clear, is not directed to you. We have at least one email from a constituent who's been following up since 2022. We know that DOTD had to do the work first. We asked DPW to do this work in parallel so there was no delay. And we're getting close to the 3-year mark on an interstate. And it doesn't matter if it's New Orleans East or Mid-City or anywhere else. I mean, just on interstates and bus routes and schools, anything longer than 6 months is too long.
I agree.
Okay. Then what do I see all this about priorities including, and those are priorities, but I know, for example, Councilmember Thomas's constituents had a spreadsheet they sent to us even maybe a year ago, Councilmember, of lights that have been out for 6 years. I mean, how are we balancing lights that have been out 5 years, 6 years, 7 years against lights that are on the interstate or schools or otherwise?
I have someone right now working on the 311 and begin to see what's still really out. The data that we have has not been kept up very well.
Right.
So we're still kind of struggling with keeping that up. Also have the IDA contracts that went out. We're trying to reconcile those with our existing contract to see what has been repaired and what hasn't been repaired. So it has been a little bit of a challenge, well, maybe a lot of bit of a challenge, trying to find out like what lights go where and what contract they actually belong to. But we're trying to get that sorted out. Just need a little bit of space.
Well, let me ask this. The regular maintenance contract is held by All-Star, is that right?
That's correct.
And then the IDA contract is held by All-Star, is that right? So you have the same vendor. So in theory, they ought to be able to tell us, I touched this light at 123 Main Street 3 years ago, and it's either reached its natural obsolescence or we've got a period of time. I would use them as a resource too. In addition to neighbor, if a neighbor has a spreadsheet that they've given to us, like Councilmember Thomas's constituents, that is sortable and has years and 311 reports, that may be better than your 311 data too.
I agree. I would.
Well, I guess.
Thomas, if you would like to share that with me, I'll be happy to take a look at it.
Great.
Yeah, and I guess just again, the bottom line is, I think we need to show, and from my perspective, it's how do we show the progress? We knock this out, let's let everybody know, just like with Sewage and Water Board, the communication is key.
All right.
All right, and please let me know about the lights on the interstate.
Councilmember Green.
Council members and DPW representatives, on last week I drove from the airport to Elysian Fields Avenue. There were 152 lights out. The vast majority of them were in Jefferson Parish. So it's a regional issue relative to repair of lights, and I want us to do what we can to address them in the best manner possible. I understand that some of the lights are out because of the vandalism and damage done to them, but I do want to ask you a question because I understand that All-Star is having a problem getting the number of trained workers that they need to be able to do more work. Is that correct? Well, maybe if you're not prepared to answer for them, that's the word that I get, but that was actually calling because I encourage people who are participating in these programs at Delgado and other places to call. So could you comment on labor issues at All-Star if that is the case?
I have not talked
Okay.
about increasing.
I don't want to put you on the spot at all. That was a call that I had. I just want to encourage people to recognize what you've heard today, that All-Star Electric is the contractor who bid on the job to do the work. I understand that All-Star is very open to hiring additional people, and we have programs here in New Orleans that train people to be involved with electrical matters at Delgado and other places. Not to push just Delgado, but at Delgado and even on the high school level at the Net Charter School, for example, I understand. So I just want to encourage people to recognize that there's an opportunity again to work, to do something productive that will help the city of New Orleans out. Let's look at the ways that we can join DPW or All-Star or any contractor that's involved with electrical repairs or with storm catch basin maintenance, because we have a need in those particular areas. 152 lights out. I counted them from the airport to Elysian Fields, the majority of them in Jefferson Parish. We have problems that are not just here, but in other places. I'm not making an excuse for what we don't do here. I just hope that one day there'll be a discussion of exactly what I see here at the top. The Department of Public Works maintains over 54,000 streetlights, including streetlights located on interstate highways and state roads. Think about that last part. Interstate highways and state roads. It's time that we look at our relationship with the state of Louisiana in certain areas, including this one, to suggest that maybe there are changes that can be made that allow us to invest resources that help us to become the jewel that citizens from other areas, and also including those who are elected, want us to be. Resources is possible. Resources is very important. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. We have 1, 2, 3, 6, 9, 10 videos from our own investigation. One of my staff people went out. We did videos ranging from 2 minutes down to 33 seconds of patches of lighting along the interstate where it's 100% out. And we did it to deal with the stereotype of New Orleans East. So on the videos, I actually shared these videos with a reporter. They didn't give me my investigative credit, but these videos show that in many cases, there are parts of the community, like Councilmember Giarrusso said, that have been out for a very long time. So whether it's 311 or automation, you know, auto work ethic can beat automation if there's a manual response that comes that's timely. So how do we deal with that? And then secondly, how do we get it right? Because at the last Public Works meeting, I think Councilmember Giarrusso and Green may remember, the administration's estimate of the amount of lights that were back on contradicted the report that was done by a gentleman that was here in my own investigative report. So when y'all are counting lights, are y'all counting them in terms of certain communities? Or, you know, are you saying a dark area in relationship to an area that's lit? Because it's obvious that given these videos and given the reports that have been done along the interstate, service roads, and access roads, a lot more lights are out than based on what you guys reported. So how do you compile your information?
It was the interstate as a whole, including the top riding surface, underpasses, and on and off ramps. So
when I'm riding on the top, I'm not really worried about what's happening underneath.
Right. We're working on a new strategy with our website to be able to show certain stretches of which interstate that we're going to be working on and make it public facing to show where we're going to be working and then what has been improved.
And then lastly, whether it's automation or work ethic, you know, some of the lights have been out for years.
Right.
You know, 5, 6, 7 years. I mean, how do we let that happen? And let me tell you why I say that. You know, I went to school in rural areas. I spent a lot of time outdoors. You expect those areas to be illuminated by the moon and stars. When you come into a metropolitan area, you hope that it looks like a metropolitan area, right? Because it's lit up. So I don't understand how when you drive into the city, you have dark spots that are not representative of what a city in the metro area is supposed to mean in terms of life.
As far as the work ethic that is combined, our streetlight system is completely maintained by contractor, and we have a contract monitor. We recently reassigned a new project manager, so hopefully we will be getting better responses.
I'll ask a similar question that I asked earlier. And I like to use the former mayor of Indianapolis, who was pro-privatization until he found that private companies, in many cases, would jack up the price, but they couldn't perform better than civil servants or public workers who were trained and who had opportunity. We keep talking about contracted the deficiency, right? Whether it's the length of projects or their inability or even bidding. And I don't want to say the word collusion, but I said it already, right? When do we begin to look in-house so that we can have strike teams or teams that we train in-house? So if the contractors don't do the work, let's pay people handsomely to do it in-house.
I agree, and I believe that Director Hathaway is looking at expanding our abilities, especially in our maintenance department, signals, streetlight signs,
So are we considering that, especially when you talk about infrastructure projects? I mean, there's some amazing people, right, who are skilled labor.
Right. Hopefully, with the new comprehensive pay plan that's going through civil service right now, we will be able to increase some of those rates so people will have a better chance working with the city of New Orleans instead of for a contractor.
If the contractors don't think enough of us to do the work timely and on budget, then we shouldn't think enough of them to give them our work. Period. And we keep talking about the contractors. They shouldn't control what happens with our tax dollars. Now, we should pay them timely when they do the work. And I'd also like to see some clauses that say if someone isn't on time, right, if it's obvious that they have 5 or 6 projects and they're taking the same crew to run from one project to the next, that we can take those projects away from them. We ought to be able to get out of a bad contract. That was my point, Councilman, with the Sewage and Water Board, with the software project. So we enter into these contracts that are bad contracts where the contractor doesn't perform and the hardware doesn't perform, but the citizens are stuck with it. The only people who are happy are the ones who got paid. Citizens are unhappy. Continue, I'm sorry.
That's it for my presentation unless you had any more questions.
Thank you, Councilmember Giarrusso. Guys, any closing thoughts? And, you know, first of all, thank you guys. This lighting situation, I really don't understand it, especially in the city, you know. In a city that's vibrant, that's full of life, you know, we at least ought to look like that. I mean, you know, when you turn the lights on, the roaches run.
Right.
The rats run. So we're giving cover to a lot of ratches. That's a rat and a roach, right? That's a New Orleans inbreed, right? So we're giving cover. I'm gonna keep that to a lot of ratches that are taking advantage of the cover at night, whether it's on the interstate, whether it's on our thoroughfares. Let's light it up. Khalid.
I agree.
Just wanted to emphasize on what Mr. Green was saying. I think with as we have the GIRR, and we discover this city is about 300 years old. We have the old infrastructure. I think it's the time with the state representative, I think our representative, council, congressman, I think we need to start lobbying to get more dollars to the city of New Orleans so we could incorporate more projects, have it funded by the federal government or by the state. And I think we need to reach out to you guys to really lobby for the state and our representative to get more money to the state, to the city of New Orleans. This way, if we change we incorporate all our lights, infrastructure, at least we know that we need a $10 million contract for CCTV and just keep tracking of the CCTV items. Because, it's an infrastructure, always there's a possibility of something to break. And to continue this, we need just to lobby to get more dollars in here. I don't think we're really the current dollars that we cannot rely on just issuing bonds. Is not can capture every projects and whatever we plan to do for the city of New York.
Well, let me say this, and I think I've listened to Councilmember Jerusalem before I got on the council. Infrastructure, sewage and water board, lighting, capital projects. He educated me listening to him and then talking to him about these issues, right? There shouldn't be an effort where we have to cajole, force, or encourage you guys to come up with a plan to deal with it. It's like, I don't understand the business community. They want to know what the governor and the mayor's economic development plan is. That's what they do. That's a cop-out. If y'all are the titans of business, y'all put together the economic development plan and then say what policies, right, and what support do you need from us. Too often, we're asking you guys to come up with modern-day technology, come up with a plan. If it's not working, I think that's what you go in your lab for. That's what you guys come to us and you say, and he's consistently said, tell us what you need. And been a very good budget chairman. Willing to work with everybody as long as you justify it. Tell us what you need. Come up with a plan and say, this is the plan to light the city. This is the plan to deal with the drain lines. This is the plan to deal with the delivery of service. Breaking news right here. We're the legislative branch of government. If you look at the city charter, our role is land use, zoning, budgeting, public policy. It's really, and I know some people, want to be administrators, but that ain't really our job. Our job is to support you guys. And just because the city is 300 years old, we don't need 400-year-old systems. We need modern-day systems. Councilman Jerusalem, anything before we close out?
I guess, look, we want to help. We know the city does not have enough money to do things. What I would just say to everybody, help us help you. And by showing lights are being fixed, potholes are being patched, catch basins are being fixed, it gets easier for us to go to people and do that. And so, I'll take Councilmember Moreno's point. We allocated, and to Councilmember Thomas' point, we allocated $10 million for catch basin cleanings December 1, 2022. Here we are, as of April 8th, 300,000 of that has been spent. That's not a money problem. It's not. That's an allocation of resource issue. And so I agree, Khalid, 1,000%, the city does not have enough money to fix all of its infrastructure needs. From broken pipe to things that have been neglected for decades, to the mayor getting fair share to try and help out, we do not have enough money. But I think what we could all do is how do we help each other to spend the money correctly, ask us for what you need, and then how we go partner with the state and with the federal government to get more for what you all need to be successful.
Mic drop. Nothing else needs to be said. A motion adjourned. All in favor? Hey.
Thank you.
Guys, thank y'all very much, too.
Thank
A
y'all.
great presentation.